Hi, and welcome to Running on Carbs Podcast. I am your host, Coach Val. Welcome back. This is episode number 13 of the Running on Carbs podcast. And today we are going to talk about getting back your running spirit when you think you may have lost it. That's not the official name of the episode, but you get the idea. That's the idea is your spirit is gone, your motivation is low, you don't know why. So we're going to go through 10 different reasons, possibilities that you might have lost that running spirit and how to get it back. And maybe it's just temporary, maybe it's something else, but we'll talk about it. Before we jump into the episode, I do want to remind you that the June contest is now open and available. So if you would like to rate the podcast and write a review on Apple Podcasts, I would be oh so appreciative because that is how the podcast will grow and to reach more people. And to thank you for that, I'm going to enter you in a drawing to win an 8-week customized training plan. So we'll jump on a call or a Zoom and I'll get all the deets about what it is that you're trying to do. And I will put together an actual customized plan for you for an 8-week plan. So anyway, please, if you have any desire to do that and you'd like to help the show grow, I would really appreciate it because that is how it works. Just take a screenshot of your review, the episode, tag at running.on.carbs for your post on Instagram. That way I know that it's out there because for some strange reason, Apple Podcast does not send me an alert to let me know if there's a review. So the only way I really know to look is if I see a post on Instagram where it's been tagged. So that's how I know to go look for it. And then I will enter you in the contest for the month. And I'll pick a winner in the first episode of July. So anyway, good luck to you and thank you ahead of time. So a quick training update. I wanted to share with you kind of where I am with my training. If you've been listening to the show for any time now, you know that I am still coming back from a femoral neck stress fracture. And I am currently in week 9 of the ability to run again in high impact activity. So still very early in my return to run. I did a 6-week, very structured plan to return to run and no pain, all good. And so now I am ramping up things little by little, very slowly. And this last Saturday, about 2 days ago, I did my longest run since, oh gosh, it was my longest run in a year since my injury. So I did 6 miles in total and I felt really good. I was super excited. I am still taking walking breaks. So I want to put that out there that if you are a new runner, return to run, intermediate run, it's hot out there. I mean, summer has hit for most of the country. I still get a lot of overcast in Southern California. We'll have overcast till July, but not the point. In most areas of the country, it's already pretty blazing hot. Take breaks. Take your walk breaks if you need it. There's no shame in that. I don't know why, but sometimes you see things on social media and other places where you start to see patterns of comments or patterns of experiences. And right now I've seen a pattern of people on social media in running groups commenting about how they didn't take any walk breaks or I ran the whole time. And as great as that is, I think that that's an accomplishment and it's not something to be set aside or undermined. But I also think that you have to know that's not the whole story. That not taking walking breaks doesn't mean you're a runner versus not a runner. If you have to take a walking break, that's okay. Take a walking break. I'm taking 30-second breaks throughout my runs right now. And sometimes that 30 seconds extends a little into the interval. And that's okay. I'm all right with that. This weekend, I had, for example, I had 12 I call them intervals, but some of them were lumped together to make a full mile. So I've had 12 intervals um, in my 6 miles that I did total. And what I'm doing is I switched from timed intervals, which I was doing. So I was doing 5-minute intervals. Um, at my pace, 5-minute intervals wasn't all too different. It bumped me up a little bit from a half mile interval. And so I switched to mileage instead of timed intervals. And that allowed me to increase slightly without increasing too much. And it's easier to track by miles than it is by time, especially when I'm running in different places. So if I'm running in different places, it's easier to know, okay, 3 miles out, 3 miles back, instead of 15 minutes out, 15 minutes back, but my pace is different. So now I'm, at the wrong spot. I didn't finish or something, or now I got to walk another half a mile because my pace slowed or something random. So anyway, it's just easier if I do it by distance rather than time. So in my long run on the weekend, I've combined two of those half mile intervals and took out the walk break in between. So I'm doing a full mile, and I did two 1 mile intervals back to back with a 30-second walk break in between. So that is the most effort energy I've put out in my runs so far, and I was successful. So I'm very happy about that. It was a challenge though. Where I was running this weekend is one of my favorite places, and there's a slight incline on the out. So on the way, it's an out and back route, and on the way out, there's ever so slight incline that you feel, but it's not like running up a hill. And then when you turn around and come back, it's like, ooh, I'm light as air. And so you really feel the difference between the out part and the back part. And so it's a lot harder to keep my heart rate in, zone 2 easy running pace on the way out, especially when you first start a run. Your heart rate is always a little bit higher until you settle in. So for me, it's always like that first mile to 2 miles, even when I'm conditioned, the first 2 miles are always a little harder. And so right now, when I'm less conditioned, those first 2 miles and up an incline combined were a lot of work. So my pace was much slower, but that's okay because I was out. It was a beautiful day, and I went for an evening run that day because, well, partly because of what this episode is about today. So my energy was a bit low all day, and I didn't get it done till the evening. So, but it felt really good to finally get out there, do my run, get 6 miles in, super excited. And I'm still just doing easy running, no fast running, um, uh, what are they called? No sprints at the end, no strides. There we go. My brain. No strides or anything. Um, and so now what I'm focused on, so now that I've got that mileage down, I'm going to stick with the same mileage for the week, for maybe this week and probably next week. So next couple weeks, I'm just going to leave it status quo. I don't plan to take out any walk breaks. I'm just going to leave it as it is and let my body settle into this distance as a whole for the week. So that's my plan right now. The only thing that I am changing up in my training is I'm going to be adding in easy plyometrics into my strength days. So some jump squats. What else do I have in there? Some hops. So one-legged hops, two-legged hops. So just some easy plyometrics to get the body used to leaving the ground, get the heart rate up, and just start training the ligaments and everything in a different fashion when I'm not running. So still working on my tight calves and my shins. So, new runner problems, right? Those darn shins and tight calves. So I'm giving my body and especially those areas a lot of extra TLC. I was wearing my compression socks earlier today for most of the morning, and I'd kind of forgotten about that. It's just been so long since I've worn them, but they really help and feel good on the shins and the calves when your calves are super tight. Um, and later on, I'll probably just do my legs up the wall. That's a really great not exercise, but a really great move to help the blood just sort of come back out of the legs, back into the rest of the body, out of my calves, and just kind of give them a little relief. So anyway, just giving my body a little extra TLC in those areas that are showing some achiness. But the good news is that my hip, which is where I had the pain originally, where I had the fracture, no pain, all good. I had a little bit of stiffness at the end of my run on Saturday. And if you've ever had an injury of any kind and you start to have a little sensation in that area, it freaks you out. So it made me very nervous. But by the time I got home and out of the shower, everything was fine. It was good. So there is also such thing as just a little muscle tightness. But it does make me really nervous. And I'm sure if you've ever experienced something like that, it makes you really nervous too. And it is definitely something to be concerned about and to watch and to make sure that you don't have pain and that it doesn't last. So for me, it didn't last. It went away very quickly. It's just a little tight, probably from my run. So anyway, there's my training update. That's where I am right now. What prompted this episode today is I have been so tired. And I don't know that it's training related necessarily, um, but maybe it's just a number of like life things together. But this weekend, it really hit me hard, and I've just been really tired, um, and difficult to get the motivation going. And I'm a coach, but I'm human too, and I am a busy woman. My son came with his girlfriend this weekend to visit, and it was so lovely to have them here. They live about 4 hours away, so it was really nice to have them here for Father's Day. And so we spent a lot of time together. We had a really lovely time. Um, but even while they were here, I just didn't have a lot of energy. I did make it out for that run eventually on Saturday, but normally I would go for a run in the morning, but they had gotten here late on the Friday before. I was up till 1 in the morning, and when my alarm went off at 4:45, I turned it off and I went back to sleep, as any normal, reasonable human being should. So that's what I did. And I slept and I thought, well, if I, wake up around 7 or something, then I'll go for my run. I didn't wake up until 9 o'clock in the morning. And for me, that is really, really late. And I'm sure for a lot of you morning runners, you probably can't fathom waking up at 9 o'clock in the morning. I know that, because I get my runs in super early, and I know a lot of people do like to run in the morning. And especially if you're trying to beat the heat, you're certainly trying to run in the morning. But yeah, that was not happening on Saturday. Nope, not happening at all. So I just enjoyed the day, but like so many times when you try to enjoy the day, but in the back of my mind, I'm thinking the whole day going, well, I can run this evening, or maybe I'll do a spin bike and I'll run tomorrow. So I'm sitting there bargaining with myself all day long in the back of my mind, not even really recognizing it, not really focused on my distraction. And so finally, in the afternoon, I got some energy and went, you know what? I'm just going to go for my run now. Forget it. Who knows what tomorrow will bring? I'm going to go do it now. So I went out the door late in the evening. I made it back to my car just as it was getting dark, which is a little later than I probably, would normally want to, but it all worked out fine. And I got it in. I really enjoyed it. It was great. But then, the low energy is still kind of hanging on. And that's where you kind of have to think about, like I'm doing, is where is this coming from? Is this lack of motivation? Or is this situational and temporary? Or is this a slump? So, those are questions that you ask yourself and that you have to determine. mine, I don't think is a slump. Mine is probably just busy and a little overwhelmed, but we'll go through a few of the possibilities of why you might be feeling low energy or unmotivated. So, is it truly like lack of motivation, or is it maybe something else? And those are the things that you have to look into and ask yourself when you're considering this. Remember that motivation is a feeling, and feelings pass. They come, they go. They're an emotion. You're just motivation is an emotion. Whereas discipline Discipline is different. Discipline is what lasts. Discipline is what is truly needed to accomplish goals. You can't accomplish long term goals using motivation alone. As I'm building my run coaching business and my business running on carbs, I am not doing that on motivation. I am doing that on pure discipline. I enjoy what I'm doing. I love it. That gives me some energy. But motivation, it kind of starts the ball rolling, but discipline is what gets that ball up the hill. So kind of think about it in that terms. Um, this podcast today, I'm doing this on discipline, not on motivation. As much as I love podcasting and I love doing this, some days, like I said, it's been a hard day. I've been tired today. It's been hard, but I'm here, I'm showing up, I'm giving my full energy to this podcast and to my message to you today because it is important to me. And I know that recording this podcast is going to be beneficial in the long term, in the long run. And I'm going to feel very good for having followed through with my plan and my schedule to get this podcast out on time every Thursday morning as I've committed to. And so that is more important to me than a lack of motivation or a little tiredness. So discipline is what's really going to see your goals through to the end. So let's talk about 10 potential causes of low motivation. So now we're turning to what might be causing your low energy. And there I could probably write a much longer list than 10, but I tried to put together a list of the top 10 most common, most possible reasons that you might be feeling a little low motivation when it comes to getting your runs in. So first and foremost is tiredness. Are you tired? Are you like me on Saturday morning after your kid comes to town and you stay up till 1 in the morning and you're just too darn tired to run at 5 a.m.? You need sleep. So maybe your schedule has been really busy and you've been getting poor sleep, or maybe you've had some stresses in your life. That could also lead to poor sleep. So, first, always look at your sleep, especially if you're tired during the day. Maybe you're not getting very restful sleep. Maybe you think you're sleeping, but maybe you're really waking up a lot during the evening or during the night, and you're not getting um, full night's sleep, or the dog's waking you up, or who knows? I mean, anything could keep you awake at night or just, interrupting your restful sleep. So think about that first. Are you tired? Number two would be stress. So, going along kind of with that tiredness, but a little different, is do you have extra stress in your life? For example, are you really, really busy at work? Do you have a lot of projects going? Do you have extra demands on your time? Are you short staffed? And so you're really putting in more hours or more energy? Do you have additional family requirements? Do you have family in from out of town? It is summertime, so the kids are back from school. If you have college age kids, kids come back. I call them kids, but they're like 20 something, but they're your kids. So, are your kids back in the house? Just maybe changing your schedule up. I can tell you that as a fairly new empty nester mom, you get kind of used to your time and your schedule in your house. As much as I miss my son living at home with us and being here, um, You also get used to it after a little bit and kind of settle into your own schedule. So when he comes back to visit, again, as much as I love having him here, it does throw a wrench in my schedule. So, um, it's a little different, adds a little different stress, not a bad stress, but it's different. The cat runs and hides and you can't find him for 2 days. It's just like little stresses, but they do add up and they add stress to the body. You have to remember that your body doesn't know the difference between mental stress and physical stress. So, if you are feeling any additional stress in your life, your body's going to feel it first. And you may not even recognize it, but you might have some symptoms. Maybe you get sort of the little anxiety flutters in your stomach or your chest. You might be more tense. Maybe your shoulders are up, closer to your ears. And, you just maybe are holding more tension in your muscles. And you may not even realize it, but even your leg muscles might be more tense because you're holding stress in your body. And your body it knows before the brain does that you're holding stress. So keep that in mind because that will absolutely certainly impact and affect your running and even your motivation to run. Number 3 would be mental health. And when I say mental health, that could be a number of different varying degrees. You could have depression or anxiety. That can absolutely affect energy levels. Um, Even if it's just ever so slight, and that could be situational or it could be medical. But either way, having anxiety or depression of any degree can impact your motivation and energy levels. Um, of course, if you're having severe distress, then you should reach out to a professional and get the help that you need, and not just rely on running to cure that. Running is great for mental health, but sometimes it can add more stress to your mind and actually be a detriment to mental health. So understanding where your limits are very important there. And I say that with the most love and care as I can muster. Number 4 is a full schedule. You just simply can't fit it all in. And this is a little different than stress. This is literally a full schedule. So you have to, be somewhere at 7 a.m. and there's no time at lunch because you have work meetings. And then you're done with work meetings and you got to stop at the grocery store because there's no food in your fridge. And you get home and you have to make dinner because you have people who are relying on you, or maybe even just yourself, and you need to feed yourself. And then you had a exhausting day, so you collapse on the couch and you fall asleep before you can even go to bed. So those days happen. And I know, God, I'm getting tired just thinking about those days because I have had those days and we've all had those days. And it's just a full schedule. And if you find yourself with a full schedule back to back to back to back, that might not necessarily be a motivation thing. That might just be a logistical thing. And as I'm going through these 10 potential causes of low motivation, I'm using motivation kind of loosely here. It's really just for, what's kept you from having the stamina to run versus something else. And it could be mental motivation, physical motivation, any of the above. But sometimes just pushing through with discipline isn't appropriate. We'll talk about that in a minute. Okay, so back to number 4. So full schedule, can't fit it all into a 24-hour day. Understandable. It can happen. All right, number 5, recent illness. So have you had a recent illness and have you recovered? The question is, have you actually truly fully recovered? Maybe if you had a recent illness, you think you've recovered, but you haven't really. Again, the body knows better than the mind. And the body doesn't work on a time schedule as much as we would like it to. I would love to say, listen, I have a half marathon in 12 weeks. I want to run a, 1 hour, 50-minute half marathon in 12 weeks, starting from where I am now. Well, I just told you what my training was at the beginning of this podcast. I can schedule that all day long. There is no way I'm running an hour and 50-minute half marathon in 12 weeks. My body doesn't work on that schedule. And sometimes we forget that as runners, that we can't schedule out what the body does. The body is going to do what it's going to do. And that was my alarm. And if you have recently been ill, you're going to have to work on your body schedule, not the other way around. So keep that in mind. Have you actually fully recovered from that illness? Number 6, are you burned out or are you bored? It could just be that, now this is a true motivation thing. So if you're in the middle of a long training plan, they can tend to get boring. It's almost like you're doing a job. It's like, okay, I've got a run today, this morning. I've got 6 miles on my schedule. You go out, you run your 6 miles, you come home. Okay, that's done. So tomorrow you wake up. Okay, today I've got 8 miles at marathon pace. All right, so you go run your marathon pace, do that, come home. All right, next day is a rest day, or maybe it's a strength day. Okay, I do my strength workout, and it just gets repetitive. It's like I do this, I do this, I do this, I do this, and it just gets boring, especially if you are running in the same place all the time. So if you're limited on location because of your time, so if you have to run in the morning before work, for example, you might just simply stick to your neighborhood during the week, and you're looking at the same houses every single day. And so you might turn around and go the other way and just, do your route backward. But you're still looking at the same houses from the opposite direction. So it gets boring, and that's understandable. So those are things that you want to work with those, maybe listen to a podcast one day or listen to a book, or what I used to do on my long runs, which I started doing a little bit more now, is I would listen to a book series and I would save it for my special runs. So during the week, I might listen to podcasts, and then on my long run, I would listen to my book, but I wouldn't listen to that book during the week. So I had something to look forward to, just little mini things. Something else that you can do if you are burned out or bored with the training plan is put in a tune-up race in the middle of your plan if you have room for it. I love to do that, especially on longer training plans like half marathon or marathon. Plug in little races within your schedule of your plan so that they're appropriate mileage for wherever you are in your plan. And it just gives you something else to look forward to before your big race. And it breaks up the plan a little bit. So you have like a midway point and something to look forward to. And make it special, not just, oh, I'm going to plug this race in because I'm supposed to do a tune-up race on that week. So you just plug something in. Plug something in that's going to be special, that's going to be important. During my marathon training, I went to Laughlin, Nevada, and I did a half marathon there when I actually live in California. So I traveled and made a whole fun event out of it. So it was something to look forward to. I had a vacation and I had a half marathon, and then I came back and I had new energy for the second half of my training plan. So try little things like that to plug in fun stuff in between to keep you motivated. On the opposite spectrum, number 7 is maybe you have a lack of focus. Maybe you don't have a training plan. And maybe that's why you're losing your motivation, because every day you wake up and you think, what am I going to do today? And you got to figure it all out every single day because you haven't figured out what you want to do. Another thing when it comes to no training plan is maybe you're just doing the same run every single day. So every single day, you go out into your neighborhood, You go the same route and you do the same 4 miles, come home, shower, and it's just a repetitive, on repeat, schedule that you're running. That can get really boring, and it could lead to just a lack of focus, just like, no focus whatsoever. So in those instances, you could really benefit from having at least some type of training plan, some sort of direction or goal to work toward, even if it's a small goal. It'll give you something to focus on and eliminate that lack of focus that you have at the moment. Number 8 is no accountability. I've seen this one quite a lot. Um, and that is that no one's looking at your runs every day. And I'm personally not a Strava user, but I know a lot of people like to use Strava. And in some ways, there's a benefit to Strava in that you kind of feel like there's a bit of accountability. If you post up on there, you're posting up your run, that you did it, your paces, whatever it is that you're sharing. Um, but on the other hand, there isn't really true accountability with Strava. Nobody knows and nobody cares if you did your run. It's really only you. So your run is only for you. If you don't do it, nobody's going to come knocking on your door and say, "Hey, why didn't you do your run?" So you're really doing it for yourself, but sometimes that's not enough. And honestly, that's where coaches come in. I think a lot of people do hire coaches because they want that accountability. And that's whether it's a trainer at a gym, a run coach, a business coach, the individuals who are trying to succeed and do better and stay consistent with something that's important to them oftentimes hire a coach, whoever in whatever it is that they're trying to be better in. And a lot of it is for just that, the accountability portion of that. And don't underestimate accountability. It is very key in a lot of areas of our life. Um, Number 9, poor nutrition or even dehydration. I heard a statistic and I don't remember it because stats tend to leave my brain as quickly as they go in. But from what I recall, like the majority of the people on this earth are walking around dehydrated, at least in a mild dehydration. Um, so lack of fluids could just be, I mean, that's going to make you tired. If you do not have enough water in your system's going to work harder and you're going to feel tired. You want to make sure that when you are drinking water, you're not just drinking water alone, but that you have the proper electrolyte balance so that your body can actually absorb and pull the water into the cells. And so it's a good idea to maybe have a little bit of electrolytes or even a bit of salt and lemon in your water to help your body absorb the water into the cells, because just water sometimes is not sufficient, especially if your electrolyte balance in your body is already off. You won't be able to actually pull the water into your body so that it can use it and keep you and get you out of that dehydrated state. So lack of fluids, low electrolyte balance, especially if you're running in the heat. So if you're running in the heat, you really need to replenish everything, your fluids, your electrolytes, everything. So make sure you're getting in the electrolytes during your run, after the run, before the run. Just like drink, drink water. Don't drink alcohol. Drink water. Alcohol will be dehydrating. So drink good, nourishing, hydrating fluids all throughout the day. Um, Also, eating out, snacking more in the summertime, with socializing, that can really bring down your nutrition. If you're at a backyard barbecue, you likely aren't reaching for the carrot sticks or celery. You're probably reaching for those chips and salsa or guacamole or something like that. So, we're snacking a lot more in the summertime, it seems like. It's also, sometimes it's hot, so it's hard to want to cook, or it's hard to get up that, energy again that we're talking about, this low energy to prepare a meal. So this is a really good time to do some meal prep. Meal preps are great because you just spend your 1 or 2 hours when you have that maybe on the weekend, put together your meals, have them ready to go, or at least your ingredients, so that it's a lot easier for you when you are tired and feeling low energy to still have good nutrition. So that good nutrition is going to help along with the hydration to get you out of this low energy slump. And number 10 is, are you a fair weather runner? No shame, no shade if you are. That's okay. It's too hot, it's too cold, whatever two it is. But this could lead to lack of motivation. So if you wake up in the morning and it's already 100 degrees outside, or may or may not be exaggerating depending on where you are, um, and you're like, I don't want to run in that. That sounds miserable, and I just don't want to do that. And maybe you don't have a treadmill, or you have a real hatred for treadmills, which personally I do not understand, but some people have that. Um, so you're a fair weather runner. And so that could be leading to a bit of this low motivation where you might be thinking, oh, I'd really love to do that half marathon in, 3 months from now, but it's really hot and I have to get up really early. So now you have to turn to your, what is your motivation? What is your why do you want to do that half marathon in 3 months? And really lean toward that and use discipline versus motivation if that's a goal that you truly want to achieve. So you have to determine, are you a fair weather runner or are you a disciplined runner? And it's a decision that you have to make, and only you can do that. So those are the 10 reasons. But again, different motivators or different motivation triggers, right, can occur for each one of those things. I think it's important to understand, like, are you struggling to get out the door, like to go for your run? And that could be a number of these 10 things that we just talked about. Or are you in the middle of your run and you just like lose interest? I've been hearing quite a bit about, those examples. Like, it seemed a little odd to me, but then I understand as I think about it more and talk to people and realize that, okay, so if you're mid run and you start to lose motivation, it could be because you don't have the fitness level. Maybe you aren't at that fitness level. Maybe you are one of those individuals we were talking about that insists on running when they really should be taking a 30-second walk break. It's amazing what 30 seconds can do for you. Um, or maybe they're bored on the run. Lack of purpose, mindset, perspective. Is it an intrinsic goal that they're trying to reach, which is within themselves? Or is it an extrinsic goal? They're trying to do it to prove themselves to someone else. Sometimes that is not a strong enough reason if you're trying to do something for someone else. So determine if TLC or tough love is necessary for yourself. So based on what you determine your lack of motivation is stemming from, then you look to see, how do you get out of it? Is this, number one, is this temporary or in situational, or is this more long-term? If your lack of motivation is really due to more of a TLC thing and self-care, then treating it with the wrong cure could actually be very detrimental. So taking a tough love approach to a time when you need extra TLC, like for instance, my tight calves and my tired energy. If I forced myself out to a run when I wasn't ready and I had tight calves and low energy, I could get hurt. I could injure myself because my body is not prepared for that. So you really have to know, is this a TLC thing and I got to take care of myself and take an extra rest day? Or do I need to give myself some tough love and say, hey, put your big girl panties on and get out there and do that run? You gotta figure out which one is this and what is the time, time and place, right? Really matter. So, for example, today, my low energy and everything that I've been dealing with, I've got an electrolyte drink that I'm drinking. I went to the acupuncturist well, number one, I go, every couple weeks for self care, and she helped with the energy flow, blood flow in my lower limbs and my shins, my calves, and also worked on my energy balance and hormonal balance through acupuncture. And, it really helped. I mean, here I am recording the podcast, which I was not doing earlier in the day. So, combination of things. I needed TLC today. And so that's what I did. And now I've got better energy. So I had to decide which one. If I would have taken the tough love approach and I didn't drink any electrolytes and I didn't go to the acupuncturist and I just said, I'm going to muscle through it and I'm just going to record that podcast, you would hear it in my voice and you would say, boy, this podcast today just didn't hit, just didn't resonate. I don't know. She was just off. But because I took care of myself and I went and did those things, I feel a lot better. And now I'm here and I'm able to show up 100% for you. But you really have to know that, you have to give that some thought and some acknowledgement, and then take steps to work toward that. So if you are, let's see, what was I going to say? If you were to take the TLC approach, okay, so opposite. So if you're to take the TLC approach when you really needed that swift kick in the behind to get you going, then you could actually be, working in a detrimental way the other direction, where it's going to lead to like coddling and just excuses for, your bad habits and for just putting things off. And that could take away from you and be detrimental because now you're hampering your own feeling of the rush of success and pride that comes from a great workout or from accomplishing a personal goal, things that you deserve. Because instead of taking the swift kick and putting on the big girl panties and just getting out there using dedication, determination, you took the other approach and went, oh, I think I'm just going to go back to bed, or, I'm just going to sit here on the TV, on the couch and watch Netflix for the next 4 hours. Whereas, in this particular case, maybe there's really nothing wrong with you. You were just giving yourself excuses. Sometimes that could also backfire. So you really got to know, which one is it? TLC versus swift kick. And only you can decide that for yourself. You really have to give it some attention and some thought, so that you treat that with the correct care. So a quick word, as I mentioned earlier, about extrinsic and intrinsic goals. Extrinsic goals are outside of you. So they're like an award. So the medal at the end of the race, feedback from a friend, or even social media posts. So if you post up on social media or Strava and you get some kudos back or some responses back on your post, those are extrinsic motivations. And intrinsic is inside ourselves. Intrinsic is within. So those are things like a feeling of pride and personal sense of accomplishment when you accomplish a big goal. It's a sense of positive self-esteem. So it's all within ourselves, our minds, our hearts, our bodies. Both have a time and a place. There's nothing wrong with posting something up on social media and getting a bunch of, kudos and congratulations. You finished your marathon and you had a PR. That's fantastic to share that, because you could also be encouraging someone else who's maybe having a low day. So I love that about social media, that you can share and encourage others and share your positive stories that, are positive and encouraging for others. And it also feels good. Nothing wrong with that. Extrinsic is perfectly beautiful. But if you do in extrinsic motivate if you use extrinsic motivation solely without the consideration of your own intrinsic goals and feelings, that's where I think it gets imbalanced. And when you're imbalanced in your extrinsic, intrinsic goals, it could lead to, well, to just that, to an imbalance. And now, and now you're not doing things for maybe the right reasons for you. Now you're doing things for other people. So now we're kind of getting in the weeds of psychology, but it's like I said, it's okay to have a balance, but not to take either one, too far. Um, I wanted to give a little example. So when I did a 5K fairly recently, when I was actually, I think that morning I had been cleared to do high impact. I had finally got my MRI results back, and I happened to be doing a 5K that day, and I was cleared to run, and I was so excited. But I wasn't going to run because I wasn't prepared to run. I'd only gotten the results back that day. So I did the 5K with some friends. And at the end, I guess we did it so slowly, and the event had not calculated proper medal numbers. We didn't get a medal at the end when we finished our 5K. And it was a little disappointing, but if I had been doing that 5K for the medal, I would have been sorely disappointed. And it might have like ruined my whole day. I might have, gone down a spiral. Like, I worked so hard, I paid money, I could have gone down a totally different rabbit hole. But instead, I was doing it for an intrinsic reason. And I was super happy that I had walked the whole thing. I enjoyed myself with my friend that I talked to the whole time. And at the end, I didn't have any pain. So I had intrinsic motivation for doing that race, that 5K that day. Um, and and so I was okay when there was no medal at the end because I received my reward. I received my intrinsic reward of having finished the 5K without any pain. So that's kind of the difference, is that with when you are doing things for extrinsic reasons, sometimes you don't have control over the outside world. And so when things don't happen to your plan or your expectations, they could be sorely disappointing. And that can lead to a number of negative thoughts, feelings, and emotions. Whereas when you do something for intrinsic reasons, you don't quite have that type of disappointment, because you're working for an intrinsic goal. And as we talked about earlier, we don't put time frames on our body. So if you don't achieve something by a certain time frame, it simply means your body wasn't quite there yet. And that's okay. That just means that you extend your goal to the next one. You achieve what you will at this point in time, and then you extend your goal to the next one. As long as you are taking all the proper steps toward that in a very conditioned and responsible manner, you have all the reasons to be proud of yourself. So my return to running, for example, is a very intrinsic goal. It's purely intrinsic. There's nothing on the outside of me driving me on. I have no races on the books. There's no medals to be had. There's no time frame. It's just every time I go out, I hope I feel a little better. I hope my heart rate stays a bit lower. I hope I have no stiffness or pain. I hope that my calves will loosen up. um, but I'm doing these for myself. And so that means that some days I miss workouts. Yesterday, I was going to do my cardio, which I usually do my cardio cross training on Sunday, and I didn't have energy. So I didn't do it. I was supposed to do maybe a bike or pull jog, some sort of cardio, and my body needed rest. So I rested. Today, I was going to do a strength workout, but all day my energy has been very low. I've been very tired. I don't want to be injured. So I'm not going to push my body for what is an intrinsic goal of feeling healthier and better, um, just to mark a workout off of my calendar and say that I did it. Instead, I'm going to acknowledge and recognize that today my energy is low to the point of too low to do a workout and to use discipline. In this case, I know that I need TLC versus swift kick. Some days I need a swift kick. Saturday, when I did my long run, I needed a swift kick. I was low energy, but it was not the same thing. Once I got to the time of the day where I had energy, there was no excuse not to get my workout in. But today, it's different. Today is low energy. Today, I'm not going to push myself. Tomorrow is another day, and I'm not going to set myself back just because I have a workout on my calendar. Again, discipline. Discipline goes both directions. Discipline can get you moving when you need to move, and it can also keep you from moving when it will be a detriment in the long run. So, acknowledging that, recognizing it, that's also sometimes where that accountability comes in. Sometimes it's really hard to decipher for yourself. So, if you have trouble or difficulty deciphering those body cues, it might be good to have an accountability partner, someone that you can bounce that off of and determine whether you need the swift kick or whether you need the TLC. So, anyway, just take it, one at a time. And remind yourself of your why. Why are you running? Why are you doing this? I heard a fantastic idea for if you have a big motivation that you want to accomplish, a big goal, is to create a vision board if you like vision boards. Um, I used to be more of a vision board person, little less so now, but I've discovered a bit about how I work and my energy works. And so now I understand why vision boards don't work quite the same for me as they do for other people. But some people, vision boards are just absolutely wonderful and they work fantastic and they really keeps their vision strong and right in front of them. So if you are a vision board person and you love vision boards, create a vision board around your fitness goal. So if you want to do your first marathon, create a vision board about which marathon you might like to do. You can put images up there about paces and locations, maybe some nice workout gear that you want to reward yourself with. Maybe that mid training plan tune-up race. You can put that up there. So anyway, lots of little ideas, whatever inspires you, that will help keep your why in front of you. Then set up those smaller goals toward achieving the timeline and the big goal at the end. So set those smaller goals up along the way, and then create SMART goals. Um, a lot of my listeners are professional women. You're very familiar with this whole SMART goal concept. But if you aren't familiar with SMART goals stands for specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound. So you have a very specific goal. You want to do the marathon in October. Very specific. Is it measurable? Yes, you have until from June to October to train for this marathon. Is it achievable? Well, now you have to look at your personal training level and fitness level. So based on that, you determine whether a marathon in October is achievable based on your time frame. Is it relevant? So in other words, does it mean something to you? It needs to be relevant to you, not to anybody else, but is it relevant to you? And is it time bound, which we have determined October is a deadline. So that's a SMART goal. If you weren't familiar with them or you needed a refresher, there you are. So anyway, there are my 10 possible reasons for, or 10 potential causes for low motivation. Hopefully, this has been very helpful for you and that you're feeling a bit motivated and you want to get out there and do your run or create your plan or whatever it is. But take those 10 possibilities into consideration as you are considering your motivation and maybe reasons for kind of losing the spirit a little bit. It could just be something temporary, and maybe you just need to do a little tweak, a little switch up. Um, Run with a group versus running alone. Number of different things, lots of tips that you can do to really tackle those 10 possible reasons for low motivation. And hopefully, this has been helpful to you and you are motivated again. If you are motivated to write a review for the podcast, I would be ever so appreciative. Just had to throw that in there. Thank you. And otherwise, I hope to see you next week on episode number 14 of the Running on Carbs podcast. So I am Coach Val. Have a fantastic week, and I will see you next week on the next episode. Take care.